Home rule. What is it? How does it work? How will it impact the citizens of Douglas County? Douglas County Citizenry hosted a Home Rule Town Hall Tuesday, April 29th, where these questions and more were answered by our panel of experts and moderated by Mandy, Connell, and Deborah, Flora. This event was open to the public so they could be informed and ask questions. Douglas County Home Rule Town Hall, hosted by Douglas County Citizenry. Liberty loves company. Questions from the public.
Thank you so much. So we obviously have a lot of questions, and I thank the panel so much as if you can keep your responses shorter, but if you have something that you want to add to it, please feel free to jump in if the question is not addressed directly to you. So let's get started.
So my question kind of tags on to what you just said, George, and this is for everybody. Do you think it's proper for the commissioners to become members of the Home Rule Charter Commission when the charter can be written to benefit the commissioners with expanded powers, increased pay, and extended term limits? To me, that seems a little bit of a conflict of interest.
Well, I'll go ahead and take it first, and then y'all can jump in, as soon as we fail to have a conflict of interest. First of all, term limits, I support 2 4-year terms that we have now. That was actually a decision made by the people of Douglas County, and I do not remember what year those were formalized. It was early after I got out of the Army and moved to Douglas County. I still think that's a good idea. That's what I'd like to do. I think we can, Weld County follows the state pay system. That must have changed recently.
Our pay is actually set by the county council, one unique in the nation oversight board that I talked about, and I make significantly less than you, George. Being honest.
And here I was going to say, I think we should still follow the state guidelines. Maybe to my advantage. Here's the advantage to having the county commissioners, the 3 county commissioners as a part of the home rule process. A legal threshold for the validity of the charter is, as Sheri talked about and caused some of you to kind of wonder about, is for the Home Rule Commission to make a study of the county. I'll tell you what, if Abe, Kevin, and I are a part of the Home Rule Commission, we are committed to devoting the resources of the county to the work of the Home Rule Commission. So if the Home Rule Commission wants to know about roads, we will have road and bridge leadership in to go into that. It wants to talk about any of the departments that are managed by the Board of County Commissioners. That board and commission, that department will be a part of the process and have full cooperation. I'm not saying you're not going to get that if you decide, like Laura pointed out, to not elect your county commissioners to be a part of the Home Rule Commission. But if we are elected, I assure you, you will have the full focus of the county government supporting the Home Rule Charter Commission in Douglas County.
Next question.
How does this Home Rule County Charter impact the relationship between the county and local governments?
I totally should have brought my styrofoam cups for my party trick. It does not have to. As a matter of fact, one of the ideas that Jeff and I have talked about, including in the Home Rule Charter, and to be introduced and voted on by the Home Rule Charter Commission, is the idea that no, it will not have an effect. Every single one of our municipalities here in the county are already home rule. Every single one. I've got people that when I point that out to them, they say, so the county's just catching up. That's a good way to look at it. The county's just catching up. And so, I served on the municipal council for 6.5 years in Castle Rock. I have no interest in any way overruling our already duly elected home rule municipal council.
Would anyone else like to address it? I see a lot of nodding heads and
One thing that I might add is that...
I'm so sorry, would you mind pointing the mic right there?
The state statute says that ordinances by the county have no effect in municipalities. So that pretty much keeps, the Home Rule Charter requires the Board of County Commissioners to have meetings with all the municipalities, which are 32 of them in Weld County. And so they choose to have one, and then a few more, but one big meeting for all of them. But that's pretty much the extent of it.
Thank you. So you've impressed upon me that this is a very thoughtful process to go through, and I know that a lot of meetings are going to be required with the public. I don't believe any have included the public so far, but we have by state statute 200 plus days to make this consideration. Why the rush?
It really is the opportunity to start next year as a Home Rule County one. Oh, and actually Sheri just reminded me to eliminate an extra special election. The calendar for, on top of the already first special election, the calendar for how a home rule charter must be adopted was not written in an age where we plan elections today. Now, when you served on the Lone Tree City Council, you guys had your elections in April, May. I got elected to the Castle Rock Council, no toilet, on April 1st, 2014. Castle Rock then changed the charter, amended the charter, to move our municipal elections to the November general election. The election cycle back in the 1970s when Weld County adopted was probably as all over the place as we've seen even here in Douglas County up until recent years. So that's the biggest problem, is we don't get to say, hey, let's wait for the next general election. Hey, let's wait for a primary election. That election calendar is set in Article 14 of the state constitution, Joe. There you go, sounds about right. And so that's set on a calendar that our current laws of election cycle don't contemplate.
Dr. Pruehs, you looked like you wanted to say something.
I'm sorry, that's correct. And there's a time. Essentially, you have to have this commission, you have 240 days to come up with a charter, and then, but before you come up before that, you still have to have this final election within the next general election. So that's the time frame. Now, there's always the choice to not do it now, and you consider it later, right? You get second chances to think about this. So, yes, that's the expedited timeline. At the same time, if you wanted to think about it more as a citizenry, wait until next year to kind of go through the process, and then you can do that as well. It's your choice.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Corey Nelson, and I'm afflicted with being an attorney, so I apologize.
Stand right here, sir.
But I actually litigated home rule at municipal level up to the Court of Appeals, and so I got experience in home rule. My question has to do with an issue that we haven't talked about, and that's the issue of legal standing to contest these things. While the professor seems to indicate litigation is adverse and we shouldn't want litigation, at some point the state legislature is going to overreach and try and get into the minutia of what we call areas of local concern. Douglas County can't litigate that, can't challenge in court unless they're a home rule county. So isn't it true, gentlemen, that only with home rule status would we have the capacity to even get into the courtroom to contest the state legislature's overreach? We'll be clean to you over.
Would the attorneys like to answer that, or Dr. Pruehs?
That's a great question, Mr. Nelson. And I will tell you, in the last 2 years, we have sued the state 5 times on issues like collective bargaining agreements, like property tax, contracting with ICE. And the first thing they tell us every single time in their motion dismiss is you do not have standing. You cannot do that. There has been some recent rulings that give you slightly better standing, in that we can argue that you still have to meet the factors that exist otherwise, but this would improve that. This would say we've taken that step to self-regulate. That is not, in of itself, won't give us, won't remedy the problems with motion dismiss. but it's a help, it is a step in the correct direction.
One thing that I might add to that is that there was a recent case from the Colorado Supreme Court that Weld County brought against the state of Colorado, where they changed the rule where it used to be that, again, as an arm of the state, the arm can't sue the body. That was the whole thing. We got that changed. And so now you prove upstanding as a county just like anyone else does. Have you been injured? Have you been, the damages, are they real? Are they monetary? That sort of thing. So it's the standards that everyone has to abide by for standing now apply to counties.
Jump in one more time. So the two elements of that are harm and a legally protected right, and the one that we always have a difficult time is a legally protected right because of the statutory nature of our county. But it is a correct step. It is a step to make us a little bit better in challenges.
Hi, I'd like to thank the Douglas County Citizenry and the panel for being here. It's kind of a simple question. I've heard different views on this. When it comes to overriding state law, as I have understood it and have heard it, it's based on the law having written doesn't contain statewide mandate. What are people's opinions on that?
I feel like I'm answering too much. Ask non-legal questions. It's better. There is a case out there called Linwood, and it says that the legislature just saying something is of state concern doesn't in itself make it state concern, and now I believe they're talking about Cora. But I want to talk about this just to an extent. I don't know the history of Pitkin County. I don't know the history of Weld County, or why they made the decisions to become. I have a little bit of understanding, but I wasn't there at the time. I think it's really important to know why our commissioners have thought about this. The discussion of this has come about, at least in part, because of the legal challenges we've had regarding contracting with ICE, regarding COTS, regarding property tax. So there's an element of this that is a little bit like, we're okay picking a fight. We're okay with being sued. We're okay doing some suing. And every now and then we get asked about our legal fees and what that cost is. We do hire outside attorneys. We do it for water issues. We did it for the union issues. But for the most part, I have 11 attorneys, and it's me. So when the state gets mad and they sue us, or we sue the state because we don't like something they're doing, the fee is me sitting here already. So there's an element of that, and that we are okay picking a fight with the state when we don't think that things are a matter of state concern and that they're detrimental to the residents. I'll let Commissioner Teal correct me if I'm wrong.
I think that's the perspective of the Board of County Commissioners now, Amy, is let's get into those legal fights when they matter. Going back to my very first example, I probably don't have the passion that Sheri does to sue the state of Colorado on how deep we're going to grade our roads. I probably just really don't care about that. On the other hand, yeah, when it comes to can we work with ICE to enforce illegal immigration here, when our sheriff's department is in the middle of investigations and they know their suspects are illegal immigrants, yeah, that's a problem for me. I do want to push back on the free laws that make us a sanctuary state. Absolutely, and I do want to tell them, go and file that lawsuit. So, I appreciate Bruce for bringing out, listen, if you push this stuff, you're going to get sued. Guys, if it matters, shouldn't we? I mean, I don't think Jared's going to roll tanks through the middle of Castle Rock and Parker in order to force the will of the government. But shouldn't we bring suit? Shouldn't we push that matter? Because we might win. I do agree with Dr. Boyce, and yes, the current composition of the Supreme Court, yeah, probably we're not going to win. But we don't know unless we try. You miss every shot you don't take. My colleague reminded me that's Wayne Gretzky.
Thank you, Commissioner Teal. Bruce, did you want to, as the other attorneys surrounding Scott James, would you like to answer that question?
Our recent Supreme Court case had a statement Basically, it says, hey, Home Rule County, you can set up your structure, but if the legislature says this is a function of the county, you have to do it. And it said, whereas function relates to the duties a Home Rule County must carry out a power that is constrained by the Constitution and curtailed by statute. I mean, I might be wrong, but every time the General Assembly passes a statute, typically they're not saying, is this state interest or not? They're saying, hey, county, you have to do this. Because they have a tendency to think that counties are their, do their marching orders for them. And so, when they say you gotta do it, this case says you gotta do it. And that's a problem. I mean, there needs to be pushback, but that's a problem.
Bruce, what does Weld spend in litigation when it comes to home rule issues? Do you know? Do you go out of the office, or do you handle it all in-house?
With this case, I mean, there are only 2 cases in the state of Colorado in jurisprudence that deal with home rule counties. It was, our first case was in 1983, dealing with the sheriff saying he wanted to fire people at will. And the board said, no, you can't do that, so the board sued the sheriff. That one, the board won, saying we have a central personnel system that has protections for employees, including sheriff's deputies. So that was that was the first case. The second case was this one that deals with the issue of, is it a function? Now, I'm just going to tell you, I think the Supreme Court got it wrong in this case, because the functions of county government, you got to collect the taxes, you got to assess the properties, to make the taxes. You have to do certain things that in cold elections. I mean, those are functions of county government. And to say that this on redistricting, when your charter says something different, is a function, was, in my opinion, where the Supreme Court got it way wrong.
Thank you. We'll start picking up the pace. Thank you, everyone who's waiting so patiently. We appreciate it. Go ahead, sir.
It strikes me that moving to home rule for Douglas County is a fairly complicated and impactful decision. And it requires thoughtful work, and it requires time for the voting public to understand that work. So my question is, why spend $500,000 in June when we could have the same questions on the general election in November and then take the right time to do a good job?
We'll miss the opportunity to be a home rule county and take advantage of some of these capabilities by January 1st.
So one of the requirements of the statute is that home rule, doesn't matter when the election is during the year, it doesn't go into effect until January 1st of the following year.
Dr. Pruehs,
Yeah, and just one thing to think about, this is my political scientist hat a little bit, is that, probably going to have slightly lower voter turnout in this election odd year, right? That may benefit one side or the other, depending on who has the ability to organize. I'm not going to speculate on that. I'm really not going to spend a lot of time in my own personal life worrying about whether you pass this or not, just so you know. That's my political consultant side, and if you want to fight court battles, you will, but be aware that there will be court battles. This isn't something that just is automatic. So that may be one reason as well. On the other hand, I think it's certainly reasonable to say if the goal is to have court battles, right, to start that process sooner than later, then get the process going sooner than later. So it really makes sense from a political standpoint as well.
It was stated that as part of the process, once the commission comes up with a charter, it goes to the current county commissioners to get approval, to get on the ballot. So I just want to understand why it wouldn't be.
So we, the county commissioners, do have to send it to the ballot, but I saw head shaking with the phrase approval. When you guys want to deal with, is it approval or is it sending it to the November ballot?
It's sending it to the November ballot. There are some elements that need to be done. There is work that is defined by the statute that needs to be done. There are mandatory functions that need to be encapsulated, but it is going to the ballot.
So you're really certifying it for the ballot,
If they
not
submit it.
approving it to go to the ballot?
That is correct. If they submit it.
Hi, this has been discussed a little bit, but I think it deserves to be said again that there will be lawsuits, and not only will we be sued, we will be doing the suing. And while it's great that the Douglas County Attorney can do everything now, I think with the level that it went to in Weld County, and I know they don't like the decision, but that is now the decision at the state level for law. And I know you said go at it, and if any step you take, you can't win, but you're playing with house money. You're playing with our money.
I'm so sorry. Thank you for
Okay.
But I was wondering if you had a question. Thank you.
So how you are being conservative with our money by saying we'll sue, we'll get sued, we're going for it.
Well, it is probably going to be picking our battles. You know, I don't want you to get the impression that Jeff and I are going to leave here today and go and make another idea for a lawsuit just because we thought of it. We have been picking our battles. Did we bring suit against the Board of Equalization of the state when they said we couldn't lower your property taxes more? Yes, we did. We did think that was worth it. Did we think it was worth it to sue the state government? Because we do want to work with ICE and we do want to start taking a bite out of the illegal immigration crisis here in the county. Yes, we thought that was appropriate. We are being sued because we participated in the election. We lent our voice to the election in the sheriff's department to unionize your sheriff's department. We thought that was worth it. I can tell you, while I'm a county commissioner, we're always going to think of it as, is this worth it? Sometimes it's not going to be worth it, and we're not going to be lawsuit crazy, as your question kind of implies that. But when we need to, don't you guys want us to be able to walk away with something more than a really good idea and a song in advance? Don't you want us to be able to walk in with very legal authority to do so?
Let me answer that too. We have 30 cases against us right now, and that's typical for us. So we get sued constantly. So we get sued from the sheriff's department, we get sued from every department we have, parks, human services, we get sued all the time. This is just another means that we would get sued by. This is not creating more, it's just another county function that would be sued through. And it is ran through my office, and I don't want to speak for Weld County, but I did go and ask the commissioner, did they pay damages for their lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court? They didn't have damages. They weren't playing with everybody's money. They did have to hire outside counsel, and we do that occasionally as well. But that's not that unusual.
My question is, when we, the people of Douglas County, had this sprung on us on March 25th, that we're proceeding with this special election to consider home rule, we also concurrently learned that the Douglas County Republican Party had pre-chosen a 21-person hand-picked slate, reportedly hand-picked by the commissioners. And I would like to know, it's not a stretch of the imagination to guess that you've got a draft charter document stashed away somewhere. I would like to know, where's the document, what's in it, who wrote it, and to what end?
Well, I appreciate you bringing political philosophical diversity to the room today, and I just noticed you were looking at me. The home rule, the decision to go to home rule wasn't sprung on the people of Douglas County. It's from the people of Douglas County. The reality is, I ran on home rule back in 2020. I ran on home rule in my re-election last year, and I get it. Nobody has to listen to me. I'm just a politician, right? Nobody has to listen to me, but I listen to you. And for many of the options of what people were complaining to me about, home rule gives us a capability, a possibility. So I do push back on the idea that this was sprung on the people of Douglas County. It's not a surprise you would ask it. The reality is, if this becomes a Republicans on the yes side and the Democrats on the left, on the no side, we're going to go home rule. And I realize that's disturbing for you, given your comments that you made in front of the Board of County Commissioners the other day. As far as, you had a second half of the question, I can't remember what it was, but by all means, feel free to restate it.
First draft, who wrote it, when?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I have not seen a draft. I have heard someone else state that before. I don't know. I haven't seen a draft. I tell you what, if we got one stashed away, I'd like to see it, because I'd like to start putting my ideas into it. Hey, here's the nice thing though. You two, you know what? By law, before we can put the charter, draft or finished, otherwise, to the people of Douglas County for a vote, guys, you all have to see it. We gotta publish it in the paper. So you two, you wanna see it? That's cool. You're gonna get the chance to see it, because the law demands that it gets shown to you and all the rest of you guys. So you're all gonna get a chance to see it.
Dr. Pruehs, did you want to make a comment? No, just to note that, and this was 50 years ago, so lots of things have changed. It's quicker to have this communication, but just do note that Weld County, when it did change, started the process in 1974, went through the year of 1975, right, and then had that in the general election, then went into effect on the 1st of 76. So again, we don't have a lot of precedent in the state in terms of the process and how it ought to work. We all know politics. There's probably a lot of folks that have a good idea of what they would like to see in that county charter. And certainly there are goals when you, as a county commission, institute a charter, and we've heard some of those right now, and maybe more. But I really, honestly, really don't. I think this is up to you folks. But one of the things you can do also, and keep in mind, is to demand an open process as this charter commission meets, right? So there will be public meetings and workshops, and I know you've had 6 of them so far. Well, not public ones, so right? So I've had 6 public. I just wanted to. So you're not. This one's not. Oh, this is. Oh, but we haven't even selected the charter commission yet. So what you've been doing really is saying, this is what we would like to see. The Charter Commission presumably is an independent body that will then make decisions about the charter, right? And that would be the process where citizens can have input. I mean, certainly folks are gathering those things. And also, just real quickly, in the reality of how stuff like this gets done, it's by multiple actors. It's folks that want to be entrepreneurs and start this process. But it's also an engaged, or should be an engaged process. So as voters who are making this decision, make sure that you are present in those commission meetings that are open as they make these choices. That will have an effect on that outcome. For some of you that may be a better outcome, for some of you that may be a worse outcome, depending on where you stand. And then as we've all noted, there will be a choice for you come November to say no. And also keep in mind that that doesn't come with any sort of requirement that you have to wait longer. So if you didn't get what you wanted, maybe you can start the process again down the line.
Good evening. My name is Irene Bonham, and I'm a candidate for the Home Rule Charter Commission in District 1. So thank you for hosting this meeting tonight. Thank you also for your values of transparency and a historic electorate to the curious when that information will be made available to the public before the election so that we can make informed choices.
Yeah, this is our second, so we run a community survey every other year, and we have since the early 2000s. And any of you who got that survey and took that survey, a lot of those early questions are the exact same questions that have been asked since 2003, 2004. This was our second survey where we asked questions about home rule. We also asked in 2023, and over 50% of the respondents said home rule should be a high priority for Douglas County.
Let me thank Douglas County Citizenry for hosting this event. Just for information, I'm a Colorado native, although I just returned here 8 years ago as an adult. Can you hear me okay? So I was doing a little research, and in 2020, our population in Douglas County was about 357,000. I'm assuming we're getting close to 400,000. So if it wasn't for the citizenry, I wouldn't know about what was going on. But once I heard about it, I got on the Douglas County website. I think it's an excellent document that you put out there. But again, as somebody earlier said, it seems like this process is being rushed. And I'll say why, because I thought, okay, that commission, I'd like to be involved. Well, I went to it, it already closed a week ago or something like that. Less than a month after you announced that you wanted to do this, now you have these 21 candidates. How did they get there? That I don't know. The other thing is, where has Douglas County been with public media or social media? I don't watch a lot of morning news, but I do, and I've not heard one article on any of the Denver stations about this proposal. So I really think there's not a lot of honesty that I'm seeing here. And I'm a Republican, and at the moment, I tell you, I'll vote no on this. Because I don't think you've been transparent as commissioners. I don't like what I've seen in some of the commission meetings I've attended. It's just, I just don't, something smells, and I don't like it.
I was going to ask if there was a question, but I didn't get that out in time. And I do want to let you know, by the way, and I'll close this in the remarks after we get to these questions. Douglas County Citizenry was started for things like this. We don't all have to agree, but we have to be able to ask questions. So I do appreciate that, but I will now get to the next question. Thank you.
First, I want to respond to the survey question just very quickly, because you did say that 50% of the 2023 survey wanted to do this. And in that 2023 survey, when you look at the numbers, it was like 1,200 people, and of the 1,200, they only certified 670 of them. So you're talking 670 people, half of which said okay to this, so what, 330? So you're talking a teeny out of 375,000 people in Douglas County. So that's just something to look at. My question is actually for Mr. Garcia. You said today, here, that you've now done this 6 times, and as the gentleman before me said, none of us had any information about this. So I found this by random, and I was at the Parker Conservative that was closed until 2 hours before the meeting was made public, and that's 2. So what are the other 4? And how do we find out about anything going forward? Because the only other one that I'm aware of is the one in Highlands Ranch on May 28th, a month from now. It's only 1 hour in duration for all of Highlands Ranch, or Town Hall, sorry. So what are the other 4? And how do we have any more? Because again, it's not transparent.
So we were at Parker Conservatives. We're at the initial meeting that kicked us off on the 25th, which had a public meeting before it. So we are at this one. We are at Highlands Ranch.
Now you said you've been at 6. You said it's got 6 times.
Yes, yeah, and I'm naming them. So, so the initial one on the 25th, this one, the one in Highlands Ranch, the DC Parker Conservative, DC GOP, I can't remember the second. Freedom Fellowship, and then at the end of May, we will have our own town hall as well. So that being said, and I got the individual's question before this, and we have a public relations department, we have a communications department. This has been in the newspaper, we had a press release, we had a press conference. I know the commissioners have been repeatedly asked about this. It is on social media, it is going out through our weekly updates, it is on our webpage. We are here because we want you to know about it.
On your webpage, there's only 4 meetings with the municipalities, and there is the one town hall meeting in May. I'm on all of your media, and I was not aware of any of these, and we have had 2 meetings that have been asked by Highlands Ranch groups, and been told that they're taken off the website because they're not official. And we've now been told that you will not have any more meetings because you're maxed out. So it's a little concerning to have you say that, but yet we told this personally with groups.
And I'm sorry, unless there's a question, we do need to continue with the other questions.
Just real quick, you are correct that we have 4 meetings in municipalities. Does anybody know how many municipalities are in Douglas County? There are 5. And we've been asked to not come to Castle Pines. Castle Pines city attorney has expressed that a concern that us going to brief the Castle Pines City Council and the people of Castle Pines may constitute a camping violation. So, Castle Pines uninvited us. I'm happy if somebody has a group in Castle Pines, I'm happy to go there and talk. I'll bring Jeff along. He's got a slideshow. It'll be fun.
My question is both for Jeff and Scott. Jeff, you kind of explained earlier when you were giving an overview of how home rule and the charter works, that it's almost like a mini constitution for our county. And you also mentioned that since it's going to be possibly written this year, that it cements Douglas County and our constituents' viewpoints at this point in time. But Douglas County is the second fastest growing county in the state, and it's a very diverse county. And I'm just wondering, after the charter is written and possibly approved based on this process, Scott, you had mentioned earlier that in Weld County 40 years have gone by with no real changes. And so I'm wondering how are amendments made to the charter, and if you could speak to a little bit more about how citizens petition to change it, or any special elections, that would be enlightening. Thanks.
So I'll just speak to what the laws exist right now, because the charter for Douglas County isn't written. I don't want to speak to what it is. But there are statutory requirements that a criminal charter does have certain elements to it, including petitioning for change. We call elected officials, and that's all outlined by the state. So those requirements exist. And that's one of the things that I think is the benefit of it, is if there is a need, you can petition on. So there would be a petition that goes around and says there needs to be a change, similar to the way it happens with the state. Or there could be a referral from the Board of County Commissioners, and I think that's what Weld County said has occurred more frequently there. I don't know.
I am a big spirit of the law guy. The letter of the law is right here, and that's why he's always within about 6 foot of me. So I'll let Bruce address the specifics. My point about the 47-year gap was in specificity to the issue of redistricting. Citizens had the opportunity to amend their charter regarding redistricting for 47 years, and they chose not to. But Bruce has the specifics.
So in 1993, there was a group of citizens who were quite concerned about a private pre-parole prison that was going to be built just outside of Longmont in Weld County. So what they did was they asked the Board of County Commissioners, which our charter says you have to come to the board first, to say this is what we'd like to amend the charter to say. and the board turned them down. So then they got it was 5% of the last general election. They then came back with enough petition signatures. They then got that on the ballot. We had to do a special election in June, and it was put into the charter saying you can't have a private pre-parole prison before unless and until you get there are so many building permits that can be issued for that purpose. So it was, I mean, to Jeff's point, you can write certain things into your charter that are important to your citizenry. That was one of them. And it was done by a petition by a group of concerned citizens.
As a potential home rule commissioner, I'm concerned about the limited amount of time I'm going to have to deal with this. I suspect that many of the other commissioners will have as many questions as I do, which will be lots of them. And I'm wondering what resources would be available. Space, somebody to handle all the emails that are going to be coming into the commission. The meeting space, legal and administrative support. I'd like to know exactly what is being planned, because there's a lot of work to be done in that short period of time, and we're going to need a lot of support.
Yeah, and as a guy who's also volunteering for that work, that's something that I've already started thinking about. We're talking about going ahead and setting up a portal. We might have already done it through our communications department, where ideas for the charter can be submitted by anyone in the community. We are starting to talk about dedicated legal staff from the county's legal department to assist the Charter Commission. We are starting to talk about what we can do with our administrative staff in the county to provide the administrative support to the Charter Commission. And then those of us who prevail in the election, we get to decide how that Charter Commission runs. You're going to have, if I am successful, and I'm victorious in the election in June, and I'm chosen to be a Charter Commission, I'm going to be pushing for us to complete for the November election cycle. That means we're going to need an efficient process. I don't know what all those answers are right now, but that's stuff that's being looked at right now.
You know, let me add one more thing, is that you, as a member of the Charter Commission, will be able to determine the rules of how you go about facilitating discussions as well. And this isn't something there are statutory provisions in terms of time and input, but for the most part, it's a committee. You're going to be the mini constitutional convention, right? You'll get to make the rules of how that debate works.
I think we need, sir, out of respect, we need to make sure we get to everyone else. We're already going longer than we planned, but it's a good conversation. So thank you so much, sir. I appreciate your question.
And then after this, now we've got a little gray stick that you put on the carry out at King Supers. So we'll have to be the last question if that's okay.
Hi. It seems to me that Douglas County is in pretty good shape, just to name a couple of reasons for that. We're under a new health department. We have a new judicial district. We have positive news coming out of the school district as far as our 92% graduation rate, as well as testing scores being up. Sheriff Weekly recently indicated that we have a 7% drop in crime, so he is able to do his job. Castle Rock itself passed a 2% sales tax, and much of that went to security for the schools. Voters most recently said yes to, yes. So all of these positive things that we have in the good shape that the county is in, and there are more that are here. I'm having a very hard time wrapping my mind around precisely why, because we've done all of this without home rule. What are we going to get from home rule that we are not already getting?
agree with that big list you did right there. And I just want to tell you that I'm supportive of home rule. I think it's a really great idea. And I'll tell you why I'm supportive of it. I grew up in Northwest Denver. I worked in Denver. I was an attorney there for the city. And when I was in the office there, Denver was, by USA Today, one of the finest places to move. It was in the top 10 places to move in the United States. And the economy of Colorado was the 6th strongest of any state. Today, Denver's one of the most vibrant cities in the United States. And we have the 43rd best economy by state right now. And it's not because Denver changed. It's because the policies around Denver changed. And policies can destroy a city. I watched it happen. I lived in a very nice house across from a golf course, and in my neighborhood, people were killed. There were fentanyl overdoses. Things, if you do not say these are the policies, these are the principles that I want in my community, they will change over time, and it can drive a community down.
So just kind of and maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but I kind of feel like we're maybe putting the cart before the horse, and maybe it's not understanding. Do we make the rules after the commission is formed and we voted on that? Or, because I kind of feel like in order to vote for this, like, I want to know what the rules are. I want to know what the term limits are. I want to know all of these things before I vote on something that these people can leave up to themselves to decide on, or we will have time to decide on all of those things.
And just so I'm clear on the question, are you talking about the rules of how the commission manages itself, or what rules will be in the charter? Okay.
So again, we're putting the cart before the horse because we want to know what's going to be in the charter before we select the charter commission. The only problem is, that's the point of the charter commission. The charter commission writes that charter. So, you know how you do it? You do it the same way you do it every other election, guys. I look around the room and I see a lot of familiar faces that you called me, Tony, you called me on the carpet in my primary election for the GOP on a number of items. You want to know, how are you going to do this, how are you going to do this, etc. Others of you, Stu, you wrote me for a little while after I got the primary nomination, and you were chairman of the GOP, on, well, what am I going to do to these specific things? And Dan, you did the same thing as the vice chairman of the GOP. So the way you do that is people like me, people like a couple of the other folks who come up to identify that they're running for the charter commission. Guys, you've got to come up to us and ask us, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this?
What I put it the other way is that what the charter commission candidates need to do is reach out to voters to let them know if they, one, have a position on what some of these bigger issues are, how many commissioners, what kind of districts that's going to look like. Presumably folks have ideas in terms of what the goals of these are. So it's a campaign, you're right, except the problem is it's a very low information campaign, and it's coming up quickly, and you won't really know. So I would say that the onus should be on those candidates. And I know I need to shut up.
No.
But I think that's very important, because what we've heard is from one right now, and a couple that want to figure it out and earnestly think through what would be best from the county. And I think Commissioner Teal earnestly thinks what's best for the county as well. But that's going to be a process that somebody, maybe this type of organization, would be useful in terms of making sure you have at least a basic checklist of what commissioners ideally want to see, and then ultimately you get that second choice to say whether they did a good job in your mind or not.
If I may ask a question, and perhaps it's that Sheri Davis, having run for office, I know when there's a really long period, you have a website, you have your points made out, you are easily accessible. We've already had the petition process. You said there were 40 some, I believe. How do these citizens find out who those candidates are, and is there contact information that is provided for those candidates so they can ask them? There's hardly time for a website to be put up necessarily. What is that process like, and where are the candidates listed?
Well, the list of candidates has been provided to the county commissioners, for publication, because they will be published by statute. They have to be published so that the public can know who they are. And when we're operating in an election, we do not support or not support anybody, so we're agnostic in terms of how you get a hold of these people. We can't put phone numbers and email addresses and all that. The candidates need to take an active role in contacting the citizens so that they can reach out and find out what it is that the citizens want in this commission.
And just to be clear for folks here, there is the list of those who made it on the ballot, and when will that be released to the public?
I believe it's being published on Thursday, and it will probably be tomorrow when the sample ballot, the composite sample ballot, is put on our website, because we did create ballots today.
I just want to ask, this all seems very unwieldy in terms of if we have until June 24th, we don't have a necessary means to contact candidates because we don't have readily information available, so we're asking candidates in a very short period of time to create some kind of media presence on the internet or whatever. This is not a traditional campaign in the sense that there's going to be fundraising and yard signs and all of those other things that sort of go along with that. So how are the citizens who have come out here? So that's the disconnect that I have a lot of concern about, is how these charter commission people are going to get elected in this compressed amount of time.
Tell you what, you convinced me. I'll go ahead and get you guys those. I'll go ahead and I'll send out some postcards. It'll be great. But on the other hand, I've done this before. I mean, I'm on the list, guys. I'm running at large. But many of you know where my cell phone number is because I sent it to you in the mail. I had to run for county commissioner. I'm going to do something. You're right. It's a compressed time period. It's not like the 9 months essentially of a run for county commissioner. But no, I intend to do something like that. And those of you who are on the list as well, you should too. You should figure that out too.
And I'll just say, as long as, please correct me, attorneys and clerk, on the Douglas County Citizenry public page, if it is all right to do so when that list is published, we will put it there. Is that proper to do? We will not put people's personal information out. I want to make that clear to everyone. But that is all right for organizations like ours to do. We will do that, so please make sure you follow the Douglas County Citizenry page. That is the public external facing page, and we will put that information out as soon as received.
This is for Sheri Davis. Quick one, while we're on the subject. Isn't that list already available on the website? Yes. I saw it.
So did you go to Douglas Votes?
Douglas County.
Oh, it might be on the commissioner's website.
I already read all the candidates.
I was told by my staff that the composite ballot, they would text me when it was available, and they did not text me before this meeting.
It's already on there. So my question was always taken by Christie. We all know how Teal feels about home rule. In fact, a quick Google search told me in 2020, in his race against Clint Doris, that both candidates were advocates of home rule county. So at least since 2020, you've been advocating that. I wanted to hear your perspective, Mr. Garcia, because it's so unique, being from Denver, but you just told us that. So I'm going to pivot and go to Mr. James and ask why it is that you think it would be a good idea for Douglas County to become a home rule county.
First, I'm a duly elected county commissioner in Weld County, and it's far be it from me to exert my influence on the citizens of Douglas. So please make your decisions. You've had thoughtful and great conversations tonight. It's been a pleasure to be a part of it. My thought as far as why in Weld County I would like to see Douglas become home rule, because it seems like as it is now, Weld is it's Weld and Pitkin that are the two home rule counties, and Weld County stands up a lot and shakes our fist towards the Denver Boulder ruling axis and says, What about those of us in rural Colorado? What about those of us who believe that the best government is the government that's closest to home? And a lot of times I think that we're ignored in the ruling axis of the Denver border, perplexed down here. Jesus, just Weld County piping off again. I think that the more people and the more counties and the more local government entities stand up and say, we want to assert our authority as home rule municipalities and counties to make our voices heard more clearly and more collectively at the state body, the better. And again, fundamentally and principally, I believe the best government is the government that's closest to home.
I have a logistical question for Ms. Davis. Was there a rule about asking? So we have candidates.
I'm so sorry, if we could let the gentleman ask a question since everybody's been waiting patiently. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
I have three questions. The first question is for Commissioner James and the Commissioner. Is your charter bipartisan? And second, every time you need to change your board, how much money are you spending? And the third question is for anyone in the panel. Is this the right time for home rule? Because if we choose a new governor, the issues that you spoke about, they will all be gone.
So question one was, is our charter bipartisan? It's nonpartisan. The Charter Commission is nonpartisan. The one that was elected in 74, that convened then, and that put the charter forward to the voters of Weld County in November of 75. It's completely nonpartisan committee. So is it bipartisan? No, it's nonpartisan. There was no partisanship involved in the formation of our charter at any time. So the second question was, how much money do we spend when we, I would defer a little bit to the clerk and recorder in the room, and of course I'm not exactly too sure the numbers in Weld County. I can tell you that if the Weld Board of County Commissioners refers an issue at the request of a citizenship, when it comes to the question of amending our home rule charter, I would be a voice, and that has only happened once since I have been on the Board of County Commissioners, that it occurs at the time when another coordinated election is taking place, so there's no additional expense.
All right, we're actually going to cut it off because we just have this gentleman, and in the interest of time, I think one question per person. But this was your second time around, is that correct? I did not delineate that rule. I needed a charter commission for what we're doing up here. Okay, because that, as long as it's a brief question. Thank you, but this will be the last question because we did say we're cutting it off, and the wonderful North Star Academy probably wants to get their room back so they can get ready for the children, but this will be the final question.
Okay, so time pass. You said that the candidates are done on the 24th. We've got 2 months now for them to figure out what home rule means and how to be a candidate. Then we have a vote. If it passes, then we move into our new charter. What we haven't heard, and it's not in the document, is how much time does the public have to hear and read that charter that's developed before the November election?
Oh, okay.
And if it doesn't pass, because people don't like what is in the first draft of the charter, because you only have less than 4 months to figure out legal and get all these people together in some room with a portal and whatever. If it doesn't pass, then what is the next step?
Okay, let me ask a clarifying question to your last question. If what doesn't pass, when? Are you talking about if the initial question in June doesn't pass?
No. So assuming in June that it passes,
21
people get together, very quickly, go through legal, go through all these things, questions, for
And it gets on the November ballot.
And it gets in the November ballot.
Yes.
At what point does the public see that charter?
Well, once again, the commissioners are required to publish that in the newspaper. I would imagine there will be other ways. It'll be on websites. It'll be, we'll have to probably have a copy of it on our website. It'll be accessible. We have a 60-day deadline, 60 days before the election, that content must be certified to the county clerk and recorder in order for us to put it on the ballot. And so that means that the commissioners have to have it and to bring it forward prior to that 60th day, which was the beginning of September. Yep.
I'm sorry, we are gonna have,
The second question
okay.
was, if it doesn't pass in November.
Oh, yeah. Well, if it doesn't pass in November, then there's a waiting period before it comes back. I don't have that memorized. I'm too focused on this election.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you everyone who asked a question. I appreciate that, thank you. And I want to say first of all, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for joining together in civil dialogue and discourse, because this is the key to keeping a free republic. Let's also give a huge round of applause to all of our great panelists. Thank you so much.
Questions from the public.